Hi everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop and welcome to my weekly shop update. Today is June 2nd and this is what I've been working on this week in my shop. If you didn't see it right, today I released my video on how I make one of these doors. This is a beaded door that's mitered in the corners with an arched top. I went into pretty good detail about how I make this thing. I didn't think it was going to be such a long video, but I figured I'd err on the side of too much detail than not enough. So if you haven't seen that already, I encourage you to take a look at that. If you're interested at all in making one of these doors, it's really not as complicated as it looks. And I'm also working on that T-chest build part 3. I'm hoping to have that up this week. I still have a lot of editing to do on that one, but I'm working on it and I'll get it out as soon as possible. So the first thing I want to talk about this week is something I got a lot of work done on, which is my secretary. So let me move the camera around, we'll go over there and I'll walk you through everything I worked on. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. So the first thing you'll see is I have the feet attached to the case and I had the base frame attached as well. Got those all finished up early last week. So let's work our way up. Something you can't see because it's in the back is the actual drawer dividers, the drawer supports. I didn't have those glued in the back or on the sides, but I went ahead and glued those in this week. Working our way up a little further, if you remember from, I don't know, probably a few weeks ago, I mentioned how I made this top drawer too tall. So I actually went ahead and I cut this down. I haven't run the bead on it yet. I'm still debating if I want to cut down the fronts of the lid supports. Since the reason that this drawer was too tall was because when the lid comes down, the bead would be in the way of the lid coming all the way down. The thing with the lid supports is, well, you need to pull these lid supports out just to drop the lid down onto them. So theoretically, you could leave these taller like this because you're always going to pull the lid supports out before dropping the lid. So I'm kind of tossing up the idea of leaving them tall like this. I kind of like the look. I don't know what it is, but it looks a little nicer. The very subtle height difference here gives a little more detail to the piece. So I'm still thinking about whether or not I want to cut these down or not. Right now I'm still leaning towards not cutting them down because I kind of like this taller look. Alright, so let's go a little higher and I'll talk about the gallery. Okay, so I'll just pull the lid supports out. Drop the lid. Well, of course, there's the door I made in that other video. It's going to go right in there to the prospect box. I got all the valences installed all the way across. And I got my prospect box installed. It fits in the opening. I have the moldings attached to the front of the box. And I also cut in my shelves. I had a little notch so that they go in all the way. You see that? They're notched on both sides so they slide past the dado inside there. And the prospect box just slides right back in. There we go. I'll put the door back. I still have to fit the door to the opening and then obviously hang it and attach the lock as well, but it's moving right along. The next thing that needs to happen with the whole base unit or the whole desk unit is I need to build all the drawers for the gallery, and I also need to cut and install the transition molding on the base frame down at the bottom by the feet. I'm waiting for a new router bit to come in. The profile I had was too small for that molding. It's not going to look that great, so I got one with a bigger profile so that'll look a little better. So since I got so much stuff done on the secretary, I figured it was time for me to step away from furniture making and get into turning a little bit. It's nice for me just to get out of the world of square and get into the world of round. So I turned a couple of bowls I've been meaning to turn. I've had the stock for these things for a while. Let me just get them out of the bag here and I'll show them to you. So I did turn 2 bowls this week. Here, this is there's one of them. They're pretty big and heavy. There's the other one. Oh, I can't put this one down. These are quilted maple. You can see some of the figure in the grain. It's kind of hard to tell because it is still rough. But I found these in a dump, actually. My wife's hometown, Neilsville, Wisconsin. It was sitting in, the whole log was sitting in the yard waste dump there. So this was before I had my chainsaw mill, so I was only able to salvage some bulb lengths of it. So if you ever run into a maple tree that looks like this is what quilted maple will look like on the log. Let's see. So you can see all these little bumps. The bigger the bumps, the more figure it's going to have. You can see this section here was pretty, not super figured, but you can still see a few bumps here where it's pretty figured. So that's what it looks like, just the little bumps on the surface. The bigger the bumps, the bigger the bigger the bumps, the bigger the figure. So here's the first one. It's a little bit of a, I don't know, it's probably about a foot or more, maybe 13 inches in diameter here, and not too deep. It's a very shallow bowl. And then this one is much deeper, but a little bit smaller in diameter. So after I turn these bowls, I stick them in a paper bag for a few months to dry out. Once they've dried out significantly, I'll take them out of the bag and allow them to dry a little more just in that open air. But what the paper bag does is it keeps the moisture inside the bag so that the bowls dry slowly. There's less chance of cracking and all that good stuff. So that's all I have for this week. If you guys have any questions or comments about anything I talked about this week or anything here in my shop, please leave me a comment. I always appreciate those. Thanks to everyone who commented on all my previous videos, and welcome to all my new subscribers. Until next week, happy woodworking.